Hi, Craig Howard here, sitting out on my porch early in the morning. The sun's just coming up over Elkhorn Mountain. It's kind of hitting me here in the side of the face, so if I look dark on this side and light on this side, that's why. But I'm not that pretty to look at anyhow. In fact, I haven't even shaved yet this morning, so I probably look really gruffy. But I was thinking this morning of a story I read earlier about the Battle of Waterloo, and this was one of the places where Napoleon met his match. Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo, and he was defeated. The hero of the battle was Duke Wellington. Later on in his life, after he had passed, a biographer was writing the biography of Duke Wellington, and somebody said, "Where did you get all of your information?" And he said, "Well, one of the most eye-opening things, one of the things that helped me the most was I got to look at Duke Wellington's financial records," and he said that told me more about what he was loyal to and what mattered to him and what was important to him than anything else that I looked at. And I thought about that. I thought about, what if somebody got a hold of my checkbook? What would it say to them about where my loyalties are at? What would it say to them about what's important to me? The Bible tells us that where your money is at, that's where your heart's going to be. That it kind of, we kind of put our investment into where we're really interested. And no, this isn't a pitch for money. This isn't a preacher trying to come up with I'm not making a pitch for your money. But it did make me stop and think about the idea of loyalty. It made me stop and think about what it is that really matters the most in my life. What do I consider to be the most important? And I kind of began to think about what is it that I spend money on? What would I like to spend money on? It's kind of a way of doing a check and balance on yourself. I was reading the scripture and I found that in 2 Chronicles chapter 28 verse 9, David was trying to teach his son the things that were important, his son Solomon, who would be the king that would follow him. And David says to Solomon, "As for you, my son Solomon, know the God of your fathers and serve him with a loyal heart and with a willing mind. For the Lord searches the hearts and understands all the intents of the thoughts." So he says, "Son, serve God with a loyal heart." He says, remain loyal to God. And it made me kind of look at myself and say, okay, I need to do a gut check here and ask myself, am I really serving God with a loyal heart? Is He first in my life? Can I validate that with my actions? Can I validate that with where I spend money? If I take a look at myself, can I say, yes, Craig, you are loyal to God. You are serving God with a loyal heart. Solomon, later on in his life, he kind of ran into trouble. If you look at 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 4, it says, "For it was so when Solomon was old, that his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not loyal to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David." So later on in life, Solomon became disloyal to God. He married all these wives as treaties to other lands. That was sort of the way of sealing a treaty back then. And so he would marry a wife of this country, he would marry a wife of that country, and that would bind him to a treaty of that country. But these wives brought their own religious ideas. They brought their own loyalties to their own gods, and pretty soon they began to influence Solomon. And instead of remaining loyal to him because he didn't want to hear their nagging, they would beg him, please, can you erect a statue or a shrine or a temple or whatever to my God, so I have a place to worship. Instead of converting to Solomon's God, and instead of him influencing them to follow after God, they influenced him to begin to follow after all their gods. And pretty soon his disloyalty became the undoing of his life. It became the thing that literally wrecked Solomon later on in his life. the Bible tells us over in the book of Timothy, I believe let me look here. 1 Timothy chapter 6. Paul is talking to Timothy, and he says, "Oh, Timothy, guard what is committed to your trust." David had entrusted a God-fearing nation into Solomon's hands. But Solomon he didn't guard what was committed to his trust. He didn't guard his loyalty to God. Instead, he began to follow after other gods. Even though David had warned him, the most important thing you can do, Solomon, is remain faithful, remain loyal to the Lord your God in serving Him. So it made me kind of think this morning, how do I guard that which has been entrusted to me, which is my faith, my relationship with God, the lessons that I've learned? Well, for me, part of it is just doing this. It's just sharing what I've learned and reminding myself and getting into the scriptures and trying to learn something new and something fresh every day that I can share with you. That's a way that I have of guarding what God has entrusted to me and guarding my loyalty to Him, because it keeps my focus on Him. But how do you do it? How are you going to do it? Are you going to do it with your children? Are you going to sit there, if you have children, do you spend time teaching them about what is important in their relationship with God? Are you investing what you have learned about having a relationship with God? Are you investing that into the lives of your children? That's a way that you can guard what's been entrusted to you. That's the way you can remain loyal. Maybe it's just about your service. Maybe it's just about taking that personal time with God and making sure that you have that personal time with God and you're investing that time with Him on a daily basis. But however you want to go about it, however you want to do it, it's worth investing the effort. It's worth taking the time to say, okay, God, I'm going, because it doesn't just happen automatically. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Staying loyal to God isn't just something that you're going to say today, okay, I'm going to be loyal to God and that's going to take care of it forever. It doesn't work that way, because there are constantly things going on in your life that are going to be working to pull your loyalties away from God. And they're not all bad things. Some of them are very good things. Some of them are nice things. Some of them are even admirable things. But they take us away. They draw us away from our relationship with God. And if we're not careful, we can allow good things to take our loyalties from the best thing, which is our relationship with God and the loyalty that we have to Him. So this morning or today, as you're watching this, I would challenge you to consider what loyalty is all about, what it means to be loyal to something, and then weigh that against the loyalty that you have to God. I read about a dog over in Edinburgh, Scotland. This is back in the 1800s. This guy who was the night watchman for the town had this little dog that he used to take with him everywhere on his rounds. He contracted some disease, I don't remember what it was, and he died. When he was buried, the little dog made a bed on his grave and wouldn't leave the grave. And people tried to coax it away. They tried to get it to leave the grave. It wouldn't leave the grave. The little dog's name was Bobby. So people in the community began to go up to the graveyard and feed the dog. And when an ordinance was passed in that community, this is back in the 1800s, that all stray dogs, because stray dog population had gotten out of control, that all the stray dogs were to be killed, the people of the town bought the little dog a registration and put it on the dog on the collar so that nobody would kill that dog, that everybody knew who it was. And finally, the guy who kept the graveyard built a little doghouse for the dog next to the grave so the dog didn't have to leave the grave. And believe it or not, for 12 years, That dog died when it was 16 years old. For 12 years, that little dog stayed by the grave of his master. And if you go to Edinburgh, Scotland today, they say there is a statue in the town to the little dog Bobby as a picture of loyalty. How loyal are you? How loyal are you in your relationship to God? How loyal are you to Him in your service, with your time, with your talent, with your treasure? What does your checkbook say about where your loyalties lie? Something to think about today. Be loyal to God above everything else. Be loyal to your family. Be loyal to your spouse. Be loyal to the people you love. Be loyal to your job, yes, but be loyal to God first and foremost, because if you don't get that loyalty right, nothing else will be right. Nothing else will work right. Well, I let time go too long, and now my remote has disconnected from my camera, so I can't shut my camera off. So I'm going to have to reach up and shut it off manually. But listen, I hope you have a great day today. The sun's coming up and getting in my eyes, and it's hard to keep my eyes open and see you. My eyes are kind of small anyhow. But anyhow, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a day filled with joy and blessing. And I hope all the people that are loyal to you remain so. Know that God will always be loyal to you. And I challenge you today, be loyal to Him. You have a great day. God bless you. And I will see you on Monday.